everybody, the following is an excerpt from an IAT course on the paymentsprofessor.com website specific to IAT. You can view the entire course on our website, www.paymentsprofessor.com. Hey everybody, if you're working with IAT entries, it is very important to understand that the screening indicator field, as well as other technical requirements, are going to be there for you to be able to work a little bit better in IAT. So in this section of the course, we're going to go into screening indicators and the other technical requirements. What is the information available under the IAT format? That's something that's very important to understand as we start working with our technical information and technical formats. Well, the data available to the financial institution in the IAT format, it's there to assist financial institutions in their OFAC, anti-money laundering, and monitoring efforts. The originator and the receiver information is available in the IAT format as well. Now, exactly what originator and receiver information is available according to the IAT format? Well, what we're gonna find is we're gonna see the originator name and address, the receiver name and address, the originator and receiver's account numbers. This sounds a lot like what was required from the BSA travel rule. It's very similar, if not the same, but this is what's in there according to the format. We'll also see the ODFI name, the inbound IAT foreign depository financial institution, the identification number, and a branch country code. And also, flip it around, we got the RDFI name for outbound IAT. They'll also have a foreign DFI and an identification number and a branch country code. And of course, a country code. What countries are we dealing with? There's also a currency code to know what currencies are we working with. And there's a foreign exchange indicator to let us know how are we doing that actual exchange, that foreign exchange, and how's it taking place. Let's move on and look more into the data requirements. The IAT format includes certain data elements, like I said, from the BSA travel rule, which is also required for wire transfers as well as IATs. Now these data elements, they are included in the IAT format, and all fields also correspond to the Swift message format field links that allows for greater interoperability. Those data elements are things like the name and physical address of the originator, like we saw in the format, the name and physical address of the receiver, or the beneficiary, the account number of the receiver, the identity of the receiver's bank. Wait, this stuff sounds like it's repeating. It is. Make sure you're getting all this information because this is how we do our scanning. We'll also see in there the foreign correspondent bank names, the bank ID number, and their bank branch country codes. Now, how does this information actually travel though with the IAT entry? That's where that format comes from. In that format, it's done through what we call mandatory addenda records. See, in an IAT, there are 7 mandatory addenda records which must accompany each IAT entry in order to convey the information or the data elements necessary for the BSA travel rule. All the information related to a particular ACH participant, it gets grouped together within one or more addenda record, and that means that the information related to the originator will be provided together within one, or if needed, more addenda records. It's important to have all of that information, but do know that an IAT can have other addenda records as well. This is where IAT can get a little confusing sometimes because the other addenda records, they're optional. You see those 7 that give us the information for our OFAC screening and scanning? That's mandatory. We got to have them there. But there are 5 optional. The other 5 addenda records, like I said, are optional, and they can be used in a combination of foreign correspondent addenda information and remittance information and addenda information, but they can never exceed 5 total additional ones, okay? And to make things even more fun, the number of remittance addenda records cannot exceed 2. It can get confusing really quick. Just know that you will always have the 7 mandatory addenda records, and you can have 5 more optional records, but cannot have more than 2 remittance addenda records out of those 5. That's the main thing to focus on right now. There are also some other very important fields within the entry and addenda records of an IAT. Remember that when we have an IAT, there is funding involving a foreign body. Then we must have identification of originating DFI for outbound IAT entries when funding originates from a foreign country. For outbound IAT entries, when the funding source is from outside the US, the originating DFI identification field within the fourth IAT addenda record should identify the foreign funding financial institution rather than the routing number of the US ODFI as the source of funding. If you are studying by chance for the AAP exam or programming files, you do really need to know that. If you're just wanting to be more educated enough to know that the information will be available in the addenda records, don't worry, that's all you really need to know on that case. Another important field, that's our OFAC screening indicator, important for everybody. See, the IAT format, it includes two optional single character fields in the entry detail record that lets us know the results of a voluntary OFAC screening of the transaction. The way this works is, for inbound IAT entries, the first field is available to convey the results of an OFAC review by a gateway, and a secondary screening indicator is available to be used by a third-party service provider to show their screening results. Well, what would those results be? If we have a value of 0, that indicates that the party conducting the review didn't find any potentially blocked parties as they would be or appear on the OFAC SDN list. However, if we have a value of 1, well, 1 indicates a potential presence of a blocked party. I said potential, not a guarantee of a blocked party, but it is a definite proceed with caution warning. This field must be space filled or left completely blank if no review has been conducted. So if you see it blank, you know the party before you didn't screen it. OFAC screening indicators, they're really very helpful because they help the RDFI in processing the international payments with their compliance obligations by identifying entries that are highly suspect or should have some extra attention, possibly even some investigation. Where do we see these fields actually in action though? Okay, the Federal Reserve Bank's Retail Payments Office, well, let's make it easier. Let's go with the Federal Reserve. When they're working as a gateway, they review inbound IAT entries for OFAC compliance. They do this at the request of OFAC. They then advise the RDFI of potential issues with inbound IAT transactions that contain data that appears to be on the OFAC SDN list through use of an OFAC screening indicator. Also, the Electronic Payments Network, or EPN, the private sector ACH operator, they do the same thing. They also make available the OFAC screening information in the OFAC screening indicator field to their customer financial institutions. Very important to note, the OFAC screening indicator should be used as a reference and not a final determining factor for OFAC compliance by the RDFI. If it is blank, you still need to scan, and you can be responsible if you continue processing an entry that is on the list. If it's populated and the indicator says it's not a hit, and then, well, guess what? You still need a scan, because if it turns out to be a hit, you could still be held responsible for processing an entry that's on the list. If it is populated and it indicates a hit, well, you still have to scan and could be held responsible if you continue processing an entry that turns out to be a hit. Yeah, it all falls into your hands. These just help you to be more aware. These are the main fields to be aware of in an IAT that are also unique to an IAT. Thank you for watching. That's a lot of information on just what's in an IAT format. As always, feel free to email me, kevin@paymentsprofessor.com, if you'd like more. You can also go to our YouTube channel, and while you're there, please hit that subscribe button. And if you really want more, you can go to the Payments Professor website. That's www.paymentsprofessor.com, where we have additional courses and information to be able to help and serve and aid professionals.